meet you.
Welcome to Jamaica, ladies.
I remember there being a lot of talk about this movie when it first came out. This was the second movie to be based on a Terry McMillan novel. And what made this story different and eventually messy was the fact that the book and film were inspired by true events. Terry McMillan, who was 47 at the time, married a 24-year-old who she met in Jamaica. It was a wild time in history. And no, there was not a happy ending. It was pure drama. We can talk about it in the comments. But while watching this movie, I couldn't help but be a bit turned off by this love story. So you already know I have my thoughts. But before we talk about that, it's time to recap. So let's get into it. So this movie starts off with us meeting our main character, Stella, as she's working. Now, Stella is on her shit as a stockbroker. Even her hating-ass boss needed to take some notes.
So, I'm in trouble, okay? I need you.
Let me get with you at the end of the day, Isaac.
I may have blown off Peg Heinrich, and I can't wait for the end of the day.
On another day, we meet Stella's sisters, Angela and Vanessa. First, let me acknowledge the fact that Suzanne is no longer with us. She is another actress who fits in the same category as Lynn Whitfield. It was definitely in the contract, especially with this movie. But anyway, Angela is suggesting for the umpteenth time that Stella needs a man. I guess being a successful stockbroker, fit and beautiful single mom was not enough. Vanessa and Angela were constantly in Stella's business when they should have been focused on their own.
When was the last time you had a decent date? Tell the truth.
When was the last time you paid a bill on time? Now you tell the truth.
Stella insists that they don't talk to her for 2 hours so that she could enjoy some peace and quiet. But of course, Angela did not listen.
You need a husband and your son needs a father.
Had one, got rid of him. So glad I did. And the last time I checked, Walter was still Quincy's father, in case you've forgotten.
And on this particular day, Stella had time.
Just because Kennedy writes, produces, directs, and stars in all 3 acts of your drama, don't fool yourself. Every woman doesn't need that kind of guidance.
And she wasn't finished.
Well, maybe if you'd have listened to Mama instead of marrying the second guy you ever slept with.
Ladies.
It was starting to get a little too heated in this spa, so Vanessa had to jump in and calm them both down.
Am not feeling any love in this room at this time.
But just as quick as their argument started, they all made up and had a little fun. Even this lady got involved. It was a sisterly moment for sure. We fast forward to Stella dropping her son Quincy off at the airport so that he could visit his father. While Quincy was looking forward to seeing his dad, he really wanted to make sure his mom had some fun of her own.
I want you to try to have some fun while I'm gone, okay?
Sure. Quincy was such a good kid. Anyway, we go to Stella being at home alone, and she is not having the fun that she promised her son she would have. As she's watching TV, she sees a commercial for a resort in Jamaica. Baby, this hair right here, honestly, this is a counter we've been needing for a while. Back to the story. So as this commercial plays, Stella starts imagining herself being in Jamaica, and at the same time, she gets a phone call from the judge her sister was trying to hook her up with. But Stella isn't paying him any attention. She's too busy seeing herself jogging on the beaches of Jamaica, all hugged up on this man. This judge on the other line doesn't stand a chance. As soon as she rushes him off the phone, Stella calls her best friend, Delilah, and insists that they go to Jamaica together. And before she could even pick out a bikini, she has second thoughts and rescinds the offer. But the next day, Delilah called back and completely ignored her reneging on the Jamaica trip and insisted that they, in fact, were going.
I don't want to hear you tell me why you can't go, okay? You ain't been nowhere, done nothing since I was a natural blonde.
Stella starts going on about her having a deadline at work and brings up Quincy. Child, Delilah wasn't trying to hear any of that mess.
Don't even go there. You being cheap, Stella. That's not like you. It's not even attractive, honey.
After they talk, Delilah goes back to doing her daily duties at Calvin Klein.
Come on, share with your friend.
We fast forward to Stella making it to Jamaica and finally seeing Delilah. And from the moment they see each other, the mess begins. Delilah has already managed to score them vacation booze.
I want you to wave to Jack and Buddy. I get Jack and you get Buddy.
And then we get a cameo from the real Winston. Yes, this movie is based on actual events. And I never realized that he appeared in this movie.
Welcome to Jamaica, ladies.
Later on, Stella and Delilah are hanging out in Stella's room. Delilah calls first dibs on some items that Stella brought. She also mentions to Stella that she's been lacking energy lately and told Stella that she hadn't had a physical in a year. And Stella urges her to go and get one. This is an important detail. And Delilah continues to shop through Stella's belongings and scores herself some hoop earrings. The next morning, Stella convinces Delilah to go out and run with her. She was foolish to think Delilah would actually participate.
Going now. Running, girl, like the wind. I'm running. I'm fast like a mofo. I'll see you at breakfast.
Delilah was like, girl, this is a vacation. I don't have time for this. But after running, Stella goes to get some breakfast, but little did she know that wasn't the only meal she was gonna snag. Enter Winston, a 20-year-old college grad who eyed Stella down from the minute he saw her, and he wasted no time introducing himself.
Good morning.
Are you a rapper?
Winston asked Stella if she would mind if he joined her, and of course, she didn't. Winston asked how long she'd been on the island since he was pretty sure he would have noticed her sooner, and the whole time he's talking to her, she's eyeing him down and sizing him up. Tay has such a great smile, but as they continue to talk, Stella learns that Winston is only 20, and when Winston learns that Stella is 40, he's shocked in a good way. All that running has definitely worked for Stella, but all these questions from Winston has ruined Stella's appetite. But as she gets up to leave, Winston invites her to a little pajama jam. Stella wasn't interested, but that didn't faze Winston at all.
Well, I'll be there anyway, watching the door, hoping you change your mind.
Later on, Stella gets an unwelcome surprise from Delilah and these two. And this guy was doing way too much.
Now, if that rumor's true, I'm here to put the P in paradise for ya.
Now, Delilah had already made plans for the four of them to hit up some club on the island. But Stella isn't down for it, especially since she's slick saving space in her schedule for the pajama jam. Stella claims that she's tired, but Delilah was not trying to hear it. And this guy.
I'm feeling tired, D.
From what? Swimming?
He was so clueless.
Look how cute he is. The teeth. I'm gonna take him to the pawn shop, okay?
Later that evening, Stella considers going to the pajama jam, but starts to talk herself out of it, saying how she was too old and feeling foolish for even considering it, but it didn't take her too long to throw caution to the wind and go anyway. And she wasn't even there for a solid minute before Winston spotted her and came up to say hello.
I'm glad you came, but you're late.
How can I be late to something I never said I was coming to?
Baby Winston was eyeing her down, but to her credit, she looked amazing. Honestly, she needs 2 counters for this look. But anyway, Winston was ready to get the groove started, and it didn't take long for Stella to catch the hint and hit him with the shoulders. I don't know why this part always trips me out, but one thing Angela gonna do is give you body and shoulders, baby. Body and shoulders. Anyway, they end up enjoying each other's company and have a ball on the dance floor. Delilah and these two happened to show up at this party, and Delilah was pissed.
What are you doing?
She's dancing with me.
And who the hell are you?
Listen, Stella was having a time.
She knows she likes me. Isn't that right?
Yes, Winston, that's right.
But Delilah, being the good friend she was, found another random to try and divert the guy's attention so that she wouldn't have to be bothered with them. At around this time was when the party got a little X-rated. Melons and sausages were everywhere, child, and Stella wanted 0 parts, so she and Winston headed out. But unfortunately for them and the others who were unlucky enough to witness it, they weren't quick enough to dodge this guy. Later on that night, Delilah's nosy ass comes by Stella's room to inquire about Winston.
What do you want, slut? Who you calling this slut trolling the kindergarten yards for a date?
After telling Stella how she thinks Winston is attractive and how they will make a good-looking couple, Delilah encourages Stella to have a little fun with Winston. Now, Stella brushes her off, thinking the idea is ridiculous, but girl, be for real right now.
What in the world would I do with a 20-year-old kid?
Fuck him. Do the Humpty Hump, do the Bumpty Bump. Fuck him.
Stella brings up how she's old enough to be Winston's mom, but child, Winston was not looking at her like she could be his mother. It was only a matter of time. The next day, Stella goes to the pool and surprise, Winston was there and he wasted no time following behind her. While they're in the pool, Stella, remembering Delilah's advice, asks Winston a spontaneous question.
So what are you saying? That you would like to be intimate with me?
Are you paying attention?
And Stella couldn't believe the things that she was saying, immediately remembering that she was old enough to be this young man's mother. And I guess she had said this one too many times because Winston got her together.
Okay, why don't you just get it out of your system right now? Tell me 3 million times how old we both are. That way I won't have to hear it again for the rest of our lives.
Stella and Winston spend the day together and get a little flirty. Things were getting a little hot until Winston, with his wet behind the ears ass, brings down the temperature. Now, Winston assumed that he messed up and was going to call it a loss until he saw her laying down in the bed and decided to give it another go. And Stella was down for it this time. And they, well.
Yeah.
After their lovemaking session, they lay in the bed and talk. We learned that Winston wants to be a doctor, but is not sure he has the passion for it. We also learned that Stella once had a passion for making furniture, but realized it wasn't a lucrative enough skill, which led to her being a stockbroker. Through this conversation, Stella sees what she gave up to be who she was, and Winston sees from her view what can happen when you don't follow your passion. The next day, Stella and Winston plan to hang out together, but fortunately and unfortunately, Winston scored a shelf position at the resort. He comes to Stella's room to tell her the bad news, and Stella is okay with it at first, until she suggests that they make later plans, and Winston says this.
Well, what time do you get off tonight?
I have to work tonight and tomorrow, and I'm on call for the rest of the week.
Stella immediately assumes that Winston was running game and tries to dismiss him.
And the next time I'm in Jamaica and I want to play these high school games, I'll call you first.
Winston insists that he wants to find the time to see her before she leaves and claims he'll do anything to make that happen. Now, Stella still doesn't take him seriously, but a part of her wanted to believe him. She and Delilah finally reconnect and talk. I wonder what Delilah had been doing this whole time. I just know she was having a good time. I just know it. But Delilah had questions.
I gotta ask you one question. Was it good?
After hearing this, Delilah suggests that Stella not give up on Winston and give him another chance to prove himself. It's here where we get a little hint that things will be taking a turn with Delilah soon.
God's here.
Stella takes Delilah's advice and tries to get in touch with Winston, but is unable to reach him. She calls it a loss and heads back to California. Tell me why she pulls up to her house and both of her sisters are there, ready to grill her about her trip. They would have to give me 2 days to unwind before dealing with they worrisome asses. But Vanessa tells Stella that she has some bad news. Stella assumes that something is wrong with Quincy, but Vanessa insists that he's fine, but just the mention of Stella's son sets Angela off.
If it was, Quincy, you were on the other side of the world partying, so what would you have done if it was? Plus, I hear you're a cradle robber, so you probably have a hard time keeping the children straight.
Vanessa starts begging for money again, per usual, and brings up the fact that she got into an accident in Stella's car. That was the bad news. Now, Stella was initially pissed, but her anger quickly fades as she realizes no one was hurt. It was just a couple of scratches, and it could have been worse. And this sets off alarms in Vanessa's head.
Why come you not acting pissed? That young boy must have put something on your ass. What happened to you?
At this point, between Vanessa's questions and Angela's judgment, she'd had enough and had to get a few things straight.
For your information, I'm not completely stupid, nor have I committed any crime. All I did was sleep with him. Damn.
When Stella goes back to work, she finds that there are files missing off her desk and she can't seem to log into her computer. Isaac tells her that their company has merged with another and has also chosen to fire her to save the other upper-level positions. At first, Stella is at a loss for words and leaves out his office, but that didn't last for too long.
You think I'd fall for that? I built this division. I made millions for this company. You think I'd accept some golden parachute and drop back into my hole?
Sometime later, Stella's son makes it back home from his father's, and to make his mother feel better, he offers to make her this burnt-ass breakfast. It was still a cute gesture, though. He's genuinely surprised his mother is taking the loss of her job so well.
Don't you feel bad about getting fired? I'd be pissed.
You be what?
I sure I'd be mad as hell.
Quincy.
Sorry, Mom.
After Quincy suggests that they go to Jamaica instead of Africa for their summer trip, Stella tells him that while they are not necessarily broke, they will have to watch how they spend their money moving forward, which Quincy understands. Later in the day, as Stella prepared to run, she gets a surprise phone call from Winston. Turns out Delilah played matchmaker and gave Winston Stella's phone number, though he did have to compensate her. And though Stella tried to hide it, she was really happy Delilah stepped in. Winston insists that he wants to see her again, and Stella lets him know that she is thinking about taking her son to Jamaica, and Quincy overhears this and starts to get excited. Stella tells them both that she'll think about it, and Winston shows his age with this request.
Oh, Stella, when you come, could you bring me some junk food? I need Snickers, Ho-Hos, Oreos, and the Cocoa Puffs.
We fast forward to Stella finally making it back to Jamaica. This time she's brought her son and her niece, Chantel. Now, this was her son's first time meeting Winston. Even he was taken aback by his age.
That's her new boyfriend. She had to come all this way to find. But he's also very young.
But the awkwardness ends fast as Winston hangs out with the kids in the pool. Later on, Winston, Stella, and the kids go to the beach to hang out. As they're getting a drink, they meet this bartender who mistakes Stella and Winston for mother and son. Rightfully so, because they could have been, but they decide to give her a show.
You sure look happy to see your mom.
Let me show you how happy I am.
Later on that night, Stella tells Winston that she was fired, and Winston tells Stella that he quit his job. Stella reveals that she feels betrayed for losing her job, and Winston encourages her to feel those feelings but to leave the worrying to him. The next day, Stella receives a call from Delilah, who is currently in the hospital but doesn't let Stella know about it, even avoiding Stella's questions about how she's doing. Stella expresses her reluctance over her and Winston, even after traveling to Jamaica and introducing her son and niece to Child.
What is wrong with you liking this young man?
Everything. Everything is wrong. Stella mentions how Winston hasn't experienced life yet, hasn't even had his heart broken, and overall feels unsure about their relationship. It's clear at this point that something is going on with Delilah, and at this moment, she's keeping it to herself. We fast forward to Winston, Stella, and the kids pulling up to this mansion that happens to belong to Winston's parents. Child, he chose today, of all days, for her to meet his parents, and he told her nothing.
It doesn't look like a restaurant to
Well,
me,
that's
though.
because it's my folks' place.
Stella was pissed, and when Winston's mother saw her and finally got a moment alone with her, she didn't spare her feelings.
Are you American women so desperate these days that you can't find a man your own age? Then what could you possibly want with my baby?
He's not a baby.
Technically, compared to you, my dear. But Stella's upset after this and goes outside to try and clear her head. Winston goes to check on her and he thinks this is no big deal and doesn't see why Stella is so upset. Winston wanted his parents to know how important Stella was to him, but the problem was he never asked Stella if she was ready for that.
I thought you'd be proud to meet them.
It's not about your parents. It's about the immature way in which you handle it.
You're gonna school me like some school child? Didn't think I act like I was such a child last night now, eh?
Winston gets upset and decides to take Stella and the kids back home. When they get there, Stella sees a note informing her to call a doctor who she's not aware of. When she calls, she learns that she was listed as next of kin for Delilah. Apparently, she's been in the hospital for 2 weeks, has cancer, and unfortunately, things aren't looking good. Stella rushed back to the States to see her and gets on her ass for not telling her what was going on. Of course, it didn't take long for them to go back to their usual shenanigans and reminiscing.
Cassandra the hoe. Ooh, Cassandra the 360-degree hoe. Child, you step on her for the legs open.
It didn't last long though. Delilah starts to feel some pain and asks Stella to give her a shot of pain medicine, and they were both quickly brought right back down to earth. And this would be their last moments together. Delilah passes away, and we see Stella speaking at her funeral. Winston even came from Jamaica to support her. After the funeral, they are sitting in the hotel lobby, and Winston confesses his love for Stella and tells her he's not going anywhere.
What time does our plane leave?
So from here, Winston and Stella are official, and her nosy-ass family couldn't wait to meet him.
Come on. We all waiting for you.
And if all this wasn't enough, Stella's ex-husband was there. Now, why is he still at the family functions? He was hoping to catch her slipping.
I ran here as fast as I could just to see how miserable you are.
And Angela was not pleased with this, per usual.
You can't possibly think this is going anywhere. I mean, let's be serious for a minute here.
Oh, shut the fuck up, Angela.
Amen.
It was during this cookout and all the crazy mess that Stella confessed her love to Winston, and she finally rests in the fact that she's becoming serious about him. And then Winston gets a bit of advice from Walter, Stella's ex-husband.
Because she needs a man to stand up for himself. Did that work for you?
Hell no.
After the cookout, Stella, Winston, and Quincy make it home. Quincy is excited to show Winston around. He shows him where Stella used to build furniture and is here at Stella's workshop where he initiates a man-to-man conversation with Winston.
You would never try to, break her heart or anything, would you?
As long as your mom has you watching her back, she got no worries, ma.
And that's all Quincy needed to hear, and he accepts Winston with open arms. From here, Winston, Stella, and Quincy get along like a real family. It's cute, I guess. They've been in their own little world, enjoying each other's time, which causes Vanessa to try and meddle and do what she does best. Get all up in their business.
Y'all been holed up over there in that love den, and I want to know what y'all doing.
She asked Stella about 1,000 questions, too many.
How does Quincy like him?
Bye, Vanessa.
Well, what about the dog?
Proposed to him last night. He's thinking it over. I'll talk to you later.
I'm really gonna need her to focus on her job. As good as things were going, it wasn't long before the age difference started to be an issue. It started with them having different tastes in movies, though this wasn't such a big deal at first till Miss Angela just so happened to see Winston and Stella leaving out of the movie theater. Angela was there with her husband, of course, and they were double dating with that judge that Stella never took seriously and his date, who was really trying to mark her territory that no one desired. And Angela wasted no time being rude to Winston.
Oh, and this is Winston. Anybody hungry?
And it got even worse when Winston told Angela about the movie they chose to see.
Well, actually, we saw that one.
You're kidding.
No, it was hilarious.
And then Mr. Judge, totally ignoring the fact that his date was right there beside him, says this.
The offer still stands, Stella. If you change your mind about running.
Running? Well, we'd like that.
Winston cut that off real quick. But this bothers Stella. So much so that she visited Angela the next day to confront her about her rudeness towards Winston.
Oh, that's Winston. Like he's some non-entity or a child or something.
Well, he is.
Angela asks Stella if she is the least bit concerned about dating Winston, and Stella admits that she is. This seems to soften Angela, and from here she backs off and lets Stella do her thing. Low-key, Angela made the most sense out of everyone in this movie. But we'll get to that in the final thoughts. Anyway, we go to Winston and Stella having dinner, and this was another instance of the age difference becoming an issue. They begin to bicker over who would pay for the check, and Winston insists that he would like to do things for her more often, and Stella wasn't with it at first since she's so used to paying for everything. But this one gesture takes their date night straight to the pits of hell.
Then pay the mortgage next month while you're at it.
Winston complains about Stella wanting things to be her way or no way and how it makes him feel.
You can't decide whether you want me to be a boy or a man. Admit it.
From the same guy who made a midnight run to the video store and came back with Booty Call and Lion King?
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Child. And this opens the flood of complaints from Stella.
And how many times do I have to tell you to take out the trash? Or if you see the cars on E, put a little gas in it. Cook something that doesn't give us all heartburn.
And Winston returns with some of his own.
We don't go anywhere unless you suggest it. And then when I do, what happens? You might as well laugh in my face.
This little dinner ends on a very bad note.
It'll make you feel any better. You leave the tip.
Yikes. After their disastrous date, and after they both think about all the things they said, they apologize to each other, and Winston shows Stella his surprise for her. Winston has cleaned up her workshop to encourage Stella to get back to her passion of furniture making. It was a real cute gesture. We fast forward to Stella meeting with her old boss, and surprise, he didn't want the legal smoke, so they offered her a higher position with even higher pay. And she turned it down. Stella was unsure of this decision, rightfully so. It was a big risk to try and have her own business now, especially when she was already so established at her job. But Winston convinces her that she can and will be able to do it. He also takes this moment to propose to Stella. Now, Stella is shocked and pleased that he would do this, but she asked him to give her some more time. We fast forward to Winston, Stella, and Quincy at a school function, and Winston is visibly bothered since he still hasn't gotten an answer from Stella on his marriage proposal. When Stella asks Winston why he is walking around looking bothered, it starts another argument between the two, but this time, Quincy gets involved.
Look, don't talk to my mama
relax,
like
I'm
that.
talking to you.
Quincy,
you need to jump back, boy!
You don't speak to my son in that tone of voice.
Eventually, they all calm down, and Winston apologizes to Quincy for yelling at his mom. Later on, Stella and Winston make up in the shower, and you already know what they did.
Yeah.
Sometime after, Winston tells Stella that he's been thinking about things. He felt that Stella deserved a better man than him, and also knew that the age thing bothered Stella more than it bothered him. Then he says this.
I was hoping to one day be a husband, have some children, but I can see now that that could never happen. I'm not satisfied with that.
I can guarantee you that that's going to be an issue later if they stay together. But he tells Stella that he has decided to go back to medical school in Jamaica and that he's leaving in a couple of hours. So the time comes for Winston to leave. He says goodbye to Quincy, promises to keep in touch, and looks forward to the day when he can come and visit him again. He also makes Quincy promise to take good care of Stella. Stella and Winston say their goodbyes, and Winston gets in the cab and heads to the airport. Stella tries to act like she's cool, but she has a mini breakdown in the kitchen, and Winston isn't doing any better in the cab. When he makes it to the airport, he finds Stella has beat him there. She spots him, and of course, they see each other, they kiss, and she accepts his marriage proposal. And that's the end of the movie, child. And here are my final thoughts. They really convinced us this was a normal love story, that a 40-year-old and 20-year-old could have a solid, long-lasting relationship. Be for real. I was a kid when this movie came out, but I remember there was so much hoopla surrounding this movie. Nobody thought it was weird to see a love story about a 40-year-old and a 20-year-old. It was almost celebrated. But over time, thank goodness, we've come to see that realistically, a 40-year-old and 20-year-old being together is weird. It's more than weird, it's just wrong. Winston's adult life was just beginning. He didn't even know what he wanted to do, hadn't even been in a serious relationship before. He didn't even know himself, his body, his dreams, what all he wanted. You know none of that at 20. You think you know, but trust me, you have no idea. Stella was in her prime. She was successful, beautiful, knew who she was secure in who she was, and had a young son. It would have made sense for her to be with someone like the judge her sister was trying to hook her up with. Speaking of her sister, though her sister was annoying, she made plenty of sense when it came to Stella and Winston. Now, I didn't like how she tried to force her sister into a relationship or constantly remind her that she should be married and that her son needs a father. Stella was doing good on her own. She needed a man to add to her life, not complete it. I felt Angela looked over all that Stella had and accomplished and only saw that she wasn't married. Like none of the good things she had done so far in her life mattered because she wasn't married. I believe Angela found her value in being a wife and tried to push that on Angela, and that wasn't cool. Everybody doesn't share the same values. One thing that stuck out to me was when Winston said, "You don't know when you want me to be a boy or a man." I think Stella loved having a man around, having affection and someone to love her and her son, but I don't think she saw him as a partner. And honestly, how could he be one at 20? He doesn't have a career, a job, nothing. Like, how could he be that? And another thing, when Winston mentioned he wanted to have kids and be married, he never had that with Stella. That's a big thing to give up. You love this lady, okay, but what happens in a couple of years when that want for a child of your own comes around and it can't happen? You've wasted years and time at this point. It's unrealistic. Calling this a love story was wild. It was more than wild. It was straight bullshit, but it's still a good movie and the soundtrack was bomb. Anyway, y'all, that's it for this review. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. As for the next review, all I'm going to say is 1994, highly requested, and technically, this love story is just as wrong and weird as this movie. Here's a visual. See you next time, you guys. Bye.